Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. We're thrilled today at PAC 14 because in the election season, there are people who don't have challengers and their voices don't get out. We don't know how they feel about stuff because no one's running against them. There's no way to talk to them. So we brought in one of those guys today, Joe Holloway from District 5 County Council. Welcome, Joe.
How are you doing this morning?
So once again, you have no opponent.
Very blessed.
So are you intimidating or are you that good?
No, I think I'm hoping it's people are satisfied. You hope it's not apathy. So I do work for my constituents. I get out there and try to meet people. If they have phone calls, I call them back and try to work for them. That's what I do.
Well, you've got my favorite district in the county, District 5, which is the north of Route 50, that whole rural area of Pittsfield to Willards, and then it sweeps up into Del Mar.
That's west of Del Mar.
Right, and even way west of Del Mar.
Right,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
But it's a big territory for you to cover and get to know everybody.
Well, I've lived in that area my whole life, so it's not that bad. I mean, most of the people I know. It's funny, I had a fellow ask me one time, as a politician out of Delaware, he said, "How many people's in your district?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure, but I know all their names." And that's not true now. Don't get, it's,
right.
But and if you sit down and look at the voter list, you realize how many people you really don't
right.
know. But I'm grateful. I think I've earned the trust of the folks in my district, and I respond to them if they have a problem.
Yeah, my line always was, if you called the wrong number, you still knew whoever was to answer the phone.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
Now, we had an election this week. Bob Culver, our county executive, was reelected. How do you feel about this?
Bob's done a good job, and people spoke. And, there's been a lot said about the council and Bob not getting along. We've all had our moments. We got 4 more years. I suppose we'll have more moments. And I'm looking forward to working with Bob for another 4 years. So I don't see a problem.
Now, during the campaign, he said that this relationship tension was exaggerated, and he kind of pointed his finger at me for that.
But you're to blame.
I'm at the meetings, I see what goes on, and I hear stuff. Now, most of the stuff is good, but there have been some tensions.
I think if you look at councils and executives, that you'll see there's always tension, not just Wicomico County, but any of your counties. We go to Mako once or twice a year and talk to other people, and there's tension. There was tension with the prior county executive to some extent. I think it's maybe a little more vocal this time because Bob is a little more vocal. He shows his feelings a little bit more than some people do.
Right.
I don't think it's unusual, for the best part. I don't really do. So.
Now, you guys, I always thought of you guys as allies, but there was some tension between you guys at one point.
We're not always going to agree.
Yeah.
And that's good that we don't always agree. I mean, who wants 7 council people and a county executive to just rubber stamp something?
Right.
So yeah, there's been tension, and there'll probably be more before it's over with. But I think in the end of the day, I know in the end of the day we can always pick up the phone, call each other, and talk. And so I think we'll see that again.
Yeah. The one thing was funny. I think maybe you took it personally. He came out in favor of term limits for the county council. And at the time, you were the only one who would have been really affected.
Well,
so you thought it was directed at you.
It's hard to knock some chips off your shoulder, sometimes, But there was a comment made that I didn't appreciate, but I don't think it was personal directed at me. It was just, the term limit thing. So.
Now, you're one of those people on the county council that I'm paid to watch you guys, so I watch very carefully. Mm-hmm. And I think you're one of those people that everyone is going to wait. They're all waiting for what Joe is going to say. Everyone will say their piece, but Joe hasn't talked yet. And we're waiting, and then you will always have a very confident opinion, but you also will ask a lot of questions because you're trying to learn. You want to understand the issue. And you have a very polite way of kind of confronting people on issues. How are you wired this way so you can be calm and still be confrontational?
Well, I'm glad you think that I'm calm. Sometimes I'm not as calm as people think I am.
Well, you never get mad.
No, you
make people mad. I've seen that,
yeah,
but you don't get mad.
I tell you, you can upset people by asking questions because then they have to explain why they're doing something, give a good reason. And sometimes that don't work for people. They kind of just want to do what they're going to do and not ask questions. The county council is, that's the last wall or whatever you want to call it between what gets done and what doesn't get done, and that's what we're paid to do. We're paid to make sure things are right before it gets done, and unfortunately, some people don't think that should happen. So,
but I love that in terms of your reputation. One of the people on staff told me that he was preparing something, and he knew that you were going to be drilling him on it. So he made sure he had all those answers. Not so much his boss or the other people in the public. He knew Joe Holloway was going to ask, so he needed to know these things.
well, I think that's good. That means
Yeah.
it means he's doing his job.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating when you have somebody, whether it's staff or people from just regular citizens, come forward and they want something done, and you ask them a question and they don't have an answer. That means they've not thought it out either.
Right, and you seem to expose that more in the county government on the executive side than anyone. In terms of the questions, there's a lot of times that they haven't either thought of it or they don't want to answer your question. I'm not sure what it is, but it seems like they didn't think of some basic stuff.
Well, that's the important part. It's all basic.
Right.
We had a little situation come up here not long ago with some property that the county wants to acquire, and there's some concerns about that property.
Right.
And we brought that out, and they've gone back to the drawing board.
No, we didn't bring. No, you brought it out.
Well,
it would have been approved the first time. You're like, wait a minute, have we
Yeah.
checked what's in the soil here and what's been going on?
no.
And they went back and checked, and it was like, oh wait, there's a problem.
There's a problem, and the part of that is you need to protect the citizens not just tomorrow but 20 years from now, and that's one situation could have come back to bite us
Right.
20 years from now. So that's
Right.
why I do those things.
And there's some more investigation. Turned out it was okay, and now the thing's probably back on track.
It's going to be back on track. I think we're looking to getting some insurance to make sure. I don't know that everything was perfect on it, but and that comes from experience, because I had experience in this. Gosh, 25 years ago,
Right, you mentioned that.
I had a
Yes.
situation that cost me quite a bit of money because nobody had checked. So I think that comes with age, maybe some of
Right.
that stuff. Yeah, unfortunately.
Right, and I also admired you came out recently talking about the bidding for county jobs. You see this all the time. I remember when they were building Phase 3 of Bennett, the athletic fields there, and they were doing a lot of work, and the contractors were all from Southern Maryland. And you would think, isn't there anybody around here who could do the job as well for the same money? It turns out there's not. I looked into it in terms of a story. But you have talked about having locals, local-based contracting, the locals preferred in terms of doing some of these jobs. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's a big thing that I would promote that. But then you have the other side of it, which makes a lot of sense. The other argument is you need to get it done for the right amount of money.
Right.
Then can you actually pay somebody locally more money to do the job? Is it fair to the taxpayers? And so that's where you have to balance that out, and that's pretty tough to do. If you've got somebody from the Western Shore or anywhere in the country that comes in here and says, we can do the job for $1 million, but if you have a local that's going to cost us $1.5 million, it's kind of tough.
Right.
And the local contractors, you got to feel for them, because all that money is going to go back into our local economy. So that's there's a balance there you have to reach.
Yeah, and this I wasted a lot of time because I thought I had a great story about why are we paying Western Shore contractors, but really the work that was being done, no one else does that kind of work as well. So it was
the other point to that is sometimes we don't need exactly that kind of work
exactly.
done. So that's I understand some of our schools had some things done that we probably could have done differently in the end. So.
One of my favorite interactions to watch is you and the school board president, Don Fitzgerald. He was finally elected to the school board, which is a whole new thing. You guys have never, I don't think you spar, but you'll say stuff that makes him mad. Because he's very emotional about the kids in the school system. You talk about asking questions. People don't like questions. They don't like the scrutiny. Talk about how you feel about the school system. There was a movement here to try to get some more funding for schools. How are you with the schools? I know you've been a big person in terms of trying to keep them accountable on their expenses. Talk about all that for me.
Well, gosh, that goes back a long ways. And one of the reasons that is I hear a lot from people that work at the school board.
Right.
People aren't afraid to come and talk to me because they know I won't use their name. I won't say so-and-so came and told me this. I'll just say, look, we've had a complaint or a concern. So when they do, I look into it and then I ask questions about it. I'm not going to spar with somebody at the county council meeting and get in a big argument. I don't think that's good to do. I'll ask questions and they can get mad if they want. The Board of Ed back in 2014 went through an audit with the General Services Administration. It wasn't a very good audit. I mean, they were pretty critical of some of the things. One of the things was the gift cards that they were handing out.
Right, and you ask about that all the time.
I ask about
and
that.
they always look around like, gift cards? What about the gift cards? Like,
Yeah.
like it's not top of mind with them. They should know you're going to ask.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some of it's still going on. Here this year I asked, and I had to fight to get the information. I guess I got all the information. I hope I did. But they were handing out gift cards to Victoria's Secrets. And how do you do that? What's the reason? What happened somewhere in between? Gift cards, and I've talked to the auditor from the General Services Administration. Gift cards are the most likely to be abused. I mean, people can take a gift card out and sell them.
Right.
And if this stuff is happening, and I see we've got a new Board of Ed coming on. Pretty much.
And the intent is so great to reward employees.
Right.
They want to do the right thing.
Or students.
Or students,
whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
The intent's good, but is the chance of abuse, is a chance of it not being fair.
Right.
I think there was one situation where they give $650 to a family in need. That family might have been in need, but how many other families are in need, and how many people, or who were the people that made that decision to give that $650 to one family?
Right.
I mean, we have so many more organizations in the county or on the Eastern Shore that does that kind of thing, that helps people, social services, whatever organization you want to go to. The Board of Ed is a teaching organization, and that's what they're there to do, is to teach. Why should they be handing out money? If you have a family in need, you refer them to somebody. And that's where I'm coming. That's what I hear complaints about.
Right.
I don't hear it just from citizens. I hear it from employees at the board.
It's not you not trusting them. It's your constituents or people in the county telling you this is not good.
That's good. That's right. That's what they, it doesn't come all from me. It comes from people that hear about this and people that work there. And the other thing I hear, and I don't know what to do about this, and I think they know that there's a problem, is a discipline problem. Teachers do not get the support they need. And I think that's a situation that hopefully with this new board, we're going to get an elected school board now.
Right.
We have elected school board.
Right.
We have a board that's going to be more answerable to the citizens, and I think you'll see some changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The discipline issue when the superintendent was hired, when Donna Hanlon was hired, that was the top issue with the teachers, and we're not hearing about that as much anymore. And I don't think it's gone away. It's just not being showcased the way it was, or maybe they are taking steps, but it's a crucial problem.
We had, and I brought this up, we had a teacher that was lured away from Worcester County that came to Wicomico. Her husband and I are acquaintances. She came to Wicomico to teach. She was paid more money, and this is a teacher with a lot of experience. This isn't someone that just graduated, 2 or 3 years ago. She taught here for a year or maybe 2, and she left and went back because she said she had no support from the administration on the discipline problem. So that's pretty sad.
Right.
And I understand a lot of this is mandated from the state. I understand that. I mean, there's no easy answer to this.
No.
And hopefully with a new superintendent and a new school board, we'll see better actions on this.
I mean, last year we had 3 major incidents in terms of fights that made it into the news, but you don't know about all the other anecdotes that they get told that don't make it into the news. And when I've done reporting on why people prefer Worcester County to Wicomico, it's always some anecdote about some kid acting up in class and their kid wasn't comfortable, so they moved to Worcester County.
I'm sure Worcester County has issues.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
We had a principal attack or a vice principal attack.
Yeah.
Whatever, and that's bad. I think one of the things and this isn't anything that was the fault of the Wicomico County education system, was that they've gone to the 18-year-old mandate where you don't leave until you're 18.
Right.
I mean, a lot of those kids, when they get 16, unfortunately, not a lot. There's not a lot of them. I shouldn't say that.
No, that's the thing.
There's only
all this stuff is just like 11 people.
Right. And but some of them, when they get that age, it's time for them to be out of school because they've got other interests, but now they're making them stay. So I think that's one of the problems. And you got to admit, an 18-year-old most times an adult. So, and it's tough on teachers. I mean, you're talking about kids now from kindergarten age to 18. There's a big sweep there.
Right.
So,
Right. Also in terms of their development.
Right.
Question I asked everyone who was running this time, the question you didn't get to answer. There was a movement here in the business community to try to increase funding for education. They created the Wycomico County Education Foundation, believing that education is an economic development tool. Where are you on the funding? Is maintenance of effort okay, or do we need to do better?
You know, I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think we could give every dollar to education. There probably wouldn't be enough. And that's not saying anything bad about anybody there, but almost half of our budget now goes to education. That's 41% plus whatever we do in bonded money.
Take the library out in Warwick; it's not that much, 38%. But yes,
our bonding, you know,
the bonding is very good.
You know,
we are very good capital-wise in terms of how we support education.
We've built schools. You know, since I've been on there, we've remodeled schools. I think all the schools have air conditioning now, which they didn't when I went on. That's an interesting story because I'd have people come to me, well, what do we need air conditioning in all the schools for? You know, I'd say, well, look, you know, you've got air conditioning at home. You've got air conditioning in your car. You know, everybody that goes to school year's longer. We need air. You know, they need air conditioning.
Today's November 9th. It's 60 degrees outside.
Right.
So something's going on environmentally.
So anyway, funding. Like I say, I think you could give all the money, and there still wouldn't be enough. I don't agree sometimes with the way they spend money. You know, a couple years ago, we went above maintenance of effort. You know, they went out and hired another public information officer for $90,000 a year. That was done right after we struck the budget. You know, we already had one public information officer in the Board of Ed, so now we've got two. You know, the office they rented over behind Lowe's, you know, was that the best decision? You know,
that still makes me mad.
Yeah.
Because there was no transparency there.
No, there was no.
But it was the previous superintendent, so I can't hold these guys.
No, you can't. But what I'm saying is it just seems to be one thing.
Were they as not duplicitous? Were they as incommunicative with the council as they were with me? Did you have any idea what they were up to?
I had no idea they were up to that. You know, I was told they went over there to look at furniture and they decided to rent the building.
Right.
And you know, we just passed.
I think that's true.
Yeah, we just passed some legislation the other night about contracts, long-term contracts for the county executive. Which, when we were talking about the county executive, you know, he's saying that sometimes we do things he doesn't like. The thing about that, and I don't know if we can do it or not, and it'd have to be a state initiative. I'd like to see that come along with the Board of Ed too, that we have to approve long-term contracts, because that affects our budgeting process. You know, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Right.
What they sign tomorrow, you know, we have to fund. Now, I think that would have to be a state initiative, and we'll have to talk to the legislation about that.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it probably won't. You know, but that would be one thing that we could look at. So.
Is there any specific funding that do you support the universal pre-K or any of these programs that you think deserve funding?
I've got to look at the universal pre-K a little bit more. You know, I'm 65 years old, so we didn't have that when I came along. You know, we went to the babysitter,
right?
You know, and hopefully the babysitter just didn't set us in front of a TV,
right?
So I think I need to look at that.
You only had one channel then, too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, John B. Greenberger, remember?
Right.
Yeah. So
very much.
We'll have to. I'm going to have to. My decision's not made up on that yet. So,
help me with something. County executive got reelected, and Jack Heath ran against him, president of city council. Said to the county executive, "What happened?" And he said, He indicated people don't like the city. They don't like the way the city's run. They don't like Salisbury. They like the way he's running the county. Is there that big of a divide between the city and the county? You're out there, you know, rural. You're not that rural. You're in Parsonsburg. But why do people out in the county not like Salisbury?
I don't know.
Well, first of all, is that true? And if it is true, why?
I don't really think they don't like Salisbury. I think, you know, I heard this during the election. One of the things that they were worried about if Mr. Heath got elected was the city running the county.
Right.
And I don't know what the big fear was there, but I think there's a difference in, you know, the rural nature of the county and the city nature. And I really don't know what the big fear was.
Is it because the city's younger and diverse? Is that what it is?
Maybe
is
so.
It the crime?
Yeah.
Do they hate the folk festival?
Yeah. No. Most people like the. You know, we'll go back to when Rick was on the county executive. You know, Rick was for you know, the part of the tax differential when he
Right.
before he got elected,
Right.
as county executive.
Because he'd
he was
been
in
the city
Fruitland.
manager in Fruitland. Yeah.
So he was all in favor of the tax differential
Right.
before. Once he got to be county executive, he seen what the difference would be.
Well, he's going to have to write a check for the...
Right. So I think if Mr. Heath had been elected, he would have probably gone along those lines. I mean, you represent who elected you.
Right.
So I think he would have probably changed his tune on that. It's like most people when, and Mr. Heath was one of them, and a lot of people that get elected to the county council will say, well, we need to give more money to the Board of Ed, But when you get in there, and I talk about the pie,
Right.
splitting up that pie, but when you get in there and you get seeing the inner workings of the county and the other things that have to be funded, do you take part of the money away from the sheriff's office, or do you take it away from the detention center, take it away from the judiciary system? Where do you take the money to give them more money, or do you take it away from the citizens? So that's where you have to get into that, splitting that pie up. Where does all that come from? Where does it go? So I think that changes a lot of people's mind once they get elected.
Right.
So
You've been in 12 years. You followed someone who I admired, Richard Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
Was he your predecessor?
No.
Or was Rusty in there in between?
No, Larry was in there.
That's right. Larry, his district was drawn differently then.
Larry
right.
was in there. Richard was my third cousin, by
Okay.
the way, Richard Atkins was.
Yeah, he was. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah,
He was a good guy.
Yeah.
In fact, I just had the history column recently about his passing, and I'd forgotten how much he suffered there at the end. It was really
rough
and he
time.
was young. He was 66.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, you're away from me.
I'm sorry, but anyway. But you've been in 12 years. You're going to be in 16 years at the end of this, which means you'll tie the record for the longest council
I
service
think
as
so.
far as I can
I think
find.
so, yeah.
What's your proudest moment in this time during your service?
I don't know that there's any one moment. I've had some disappointing moments, things that happened that you wonder why they happened. I think I should be proud of just being there. I think is one of the things. You get elected, and when I got elected in 2006, I never thought I'd stay this long.
Right.
Nobody asked me, "Are you going to run next term?"
Well, like this term, I just knew you weren't running, and I remember you were saying, like, "How come you're not asking me if I'm running?"
Yeah. So we've had some different things that's happened. The downzoning issue when we first.
That was a hard issue. People
That
forget
was
about
tough.
that.
That was tough. But what happened to that? And I said this to somebody on the council, and I don't remember who it was. I said, the economy will take care of the downzoning issue, and it did.
It did. You're absolutely right.
Boy, I mean, it cut it. It was done.
Yeah.
The other big thing that we had come along.
Well, let me real quick. My farmer friends in Worcester, their whole retirement plan for years was to sell the farm and move to Florida. And the downzoning and the economy eliminated that.
That's right. Yeah. The other thing that I don't know if you call it being proud of it or I don't know how you say it. That I feel like we solved the biggest issue was the poultry issue. I mean, we had some folks that came out really strong on this poultry thing. I mean, taking pictures that were doctored.
Yeah.
I don't
Reports that were just wrong.
Reports that was wrong. We had a situation down off Mount Herman Road where they went in and fired up a whole development, told them all these chicken houses were going to be built next door to them.
Right, they killed Bernie there.
Yeah, and it was totally wrong. I mean, I called the landowner. He said, "No, I'm not building any poultry houses there." I mean, they just went about the whole thing wrong.
And I have to give Bob Culver credit for the way he handled that in terms of making it a health issue. And John Cannon stepped up. They both sides really did, both those branches.
Yeah. You got to remember that poultry industry. Just ride down Zion Road and look at that mill and see how many cars are sitting out there, or Ocean City Road, and think about what that does for our economy.
Right.
And I've been involved. My grandmother and grandfather raised eggs for Purdue, and I've been involved in the poultry industry one way or the other all my life, just about. And I can tell you something: this area would be in very bad shape if it wasn't for the poultry industry.
Yeah.
So.
You said something last year that upset me. Not that it's all about me, but there was discussion about the Shorebird Stadium and how much money we put into it. And I think you sort of were thinking aloud, like, should we have even built this thing? Has this thing paid for itself? And I was like, Joe, come on, this is a quality of life thing. We need a baseball team here. What's your thought about that? Help me understand if you have questions about the stadium.
Well, the stadium when it first came along, you might not remember this, but when it first came along, I wasn't on the council, and there was a lot of upset people. about spending taxpayers' money there. And we have supported the stadium. The stadium has been supported. By the way, I did vote for the funding. So
I know you did.
Yeah, okay,
I know you
so
did.
Don't make me.
You were just thinking aloud. I was like, what?
Well, you know, at some point in time, everything reaches a point where you wonder whether, you know, is it worth spending the money on this or not? You know, and then you've got folks screaming wanting more money for education, and you're
Right.
out here giving more money to a ball stadium.
Right.
And you know, I thought Mr. Perdue was very generous in coming forward. I think that was a good thing. And you go back to the poultry thing. I mean, that's where a lot of that came
Right.
from. You know, here, so we go over here to the college and look at whose names are on some of those buildings.
All poultry.
All poultry.
Yeah.
You know.
Beaver Run is in your district?
Yep. Yep.
Where are you on that? This
Oh,
the
man,
all
we need a new school.
Good.
That's, I can
Now,
be against
the
Beaver
cynical
Run.
people would say, you know, oh, it's because it's in your district.
Yeah, no. One thing that really kind of bothers me about it, and I understand because I'm not an engineer and I have, you know, no experience in building. You know, it does upset me that they're going to tear that new building down that they just built a few years ago. But
Right.
they say it's going to be cheaper to do that and build a new school.
Well, it's
so.
more like 30 years ago, but it's the old gym, the gym.
Yeah,
that
but there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
You know, so the school's 50 or 60 years old, I think, 50 some years
Yeah,
old.
I was going to say 1957 or 58.
Yeah. So, Beaver Run probably should have been ahead of a couple other schools.
Very much. What do you want to get accomplished in this next term? A lot of talk about sewer.
Boy, that's a tough one. We're dealing
Yeah.
with an issue right now. In fact, I was on the phone this morning to the health department, you know, with a fellow trying to put in a sewer septic system, and of course MDE's involved. You know, I don't know whether to run a privatized system out, especially on the old Ocean City Road corridor
Right.
with our Pacific Avenue area. There's houses in there that they won't even let them put a septic system in.
Right. And they're
So-
all the same age. They're all 50 to 60 years old.
Yeah. That after World War II,
Yeah.
when all that started happening, you know, all that building. My grandfather built quite a bit of those homes in there. I don't know. You know, that's going to be something that we need to tackle.
Do you enjoy your job?
I enjoy it. I love it. I don't mind the phone calls. You know, sometimes you look at the phone and say, "Oh boy, here we go again." But you know, the flooding issue in the past couple of years has been a challenge to
Right.
us. You know, we haven't had as much problem on the east side, but we've had quite a bit of problem out there.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy it. I've had a great time doing it. You know, I'm going to enjoy the next 4 years. I don't see any reason why not to.
He's Joe Holloway. He's about to start his 4th term on the county council. We're thrilled he was here today. Thanks for being here, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yep.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and On One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.